everyone, and welcome to another episode. Actually, hold on, let me click start recording this time. There we go. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode. Yesterday, we started watercoloring this beautiful painting of the tree that TeeBee likes to sit in for a new version of the book cover for TeeBee's Adventures. And today, we're going to try to finish it. So I'm going to start by putting on my wrist brace. Little wrist brace noises for you there. And I have this little custom piece of fabric that I tied to it to give my palm some extra cushioning. And one strap down. Oop, wrong direction for that strap. There we go. All braced up. That keeps my wrist steady while I'm painting. I don't always need it, but I figured I'd use it today since I've been drawing / painting this for 3 days in a row. So let's also grab my iPad and pull up our reference images. There we go. And I'm going to set it up like this time so I can keep it charging and so that you guys can see the references a little bit better. And now let's get started. So we were going for a combination of this yellow green for highlights, this dark green for lowlights, and these two greens for midtones. So let's get started by making this wet and then going in there. Oh, we were using our small brush, weren't we? Oh, let's make those two friends. I'm going to touch up some of these leaves that we did yesterday as well. There we go. How is everyone doing on this fine Sunday morning? I don't know how many of you are out there. I mean, I know that there are like none of you out there right now. I wonder what you're doing right now. Some of you are probably going to a church or community gathering of some sort. Probably shouldn't talk about religion on this channel, though. Too much. It's a bit of a controversial subject. Me, I like finding out about other people's belief systems, you know? Again, so long as it doesn't hurt anyone. But I think that it's important to take a lot of different things that people can believe into account. Like I was talking with a chef once, and he was telling me that he likes the idea of an afterlife because he's a chef and his focus is on the end product whenever he makes something. And I think that's interesting, that different people can have different opinions about that kind of thing, you know? And I think it's important to sometimes accept what other people believe, so long as it's not hurting anyone, and have all kinds of different perspectives in your wider viewpoint. me personally, I believe in magic, but only a little bit, and I understand that other people don't. I believe that people can make their own miracles. And that lots of things have more meaning than we think, and that we don't really understand a lot, and that everything is important to a certain extent, you know? Like every animal, every rock, every piece of dirt, every plant, every mushroom, every creature and fungus and species and piece of the universe out there is important. You know? And maybe that's because I'm an artist and I like to study it all. I like to look at the world and see how magical it is. Like every leaf and every person, every little detail about the world is worthy of study, worthy of observation, worthy of recreation through art. At least that's what I think. But it's fine if other people think differently about the world, you know? And I think that a lot of the religions and stuff, it's storytelling, isn't it? It's learning from the stories of that people have been passing down to you for generations. And I love stories. Maybe we should change the topic, though. I don't know what to talk about right now. I'm just making colors. What about sci-fi? Do you guys like sci-fi? I like sci-fi. Some of my favorite pieces of media are sci-fi. I mean, if you've heard me yesterday, you know I went off about Star Trek and how much I love the original series. I also like other sci-fi, though, like Ben 10, Invader Zim. I enjoyed Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles a lot. I actually had a person that I knew from Tumblr who worked on that show. So I was like sort of kind of invested in it before it was even made. But then I went to college while it was being released, so I couldn't really watch it as it was happening. But then I was able to catch up around when the movie came out, and I loved it. Well, I guess a little bit before the movie came out, but I loved it. I was like, I knew I would love this, and I do. It goes a little fast at first, though. Like, for the first few episodes, they don't really find their groove until the fish and ladders fight scene, and I absolutely adore the fish and ladders fight scene. I feel like that's kind of the turning point of the show in terms of like how it's storyboarded and stuff, because that's when they started getting really creative with like set pieces and power systems and like fight scenes. And I think it's an important exercise if you want to get good at storyboarding. Think of a situation that gives your characters a limit. Like for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, that limit was we have this fight scene where our main characters can only fight using fish and ladders as their weapons. And it ruled. But like, find a limitation for yourself. Make yourself like oh, the entire fight scene is happening while a death laser is spinning around the room. That's what Sonic Prime did, and I loved that too. Or do a fight scene in an enclosed space, like a train car, and think about how you can use that space. Or think about like a space station and the fact that everyone's lost their gravity. Like, think about ways that you can manipulate the environment, and think about how the characters would move in that environment. There's no fight scenes in TeeBee's Adventures. I mean, I don't know. As far as I know, there might be some in Season 2, but I don't think there's going to be. My boss hasn't written Season 2 yet. We're going to see if Season 1's profitable first. But this show's more about, like, you know, people you care about. Things you can do with the people you love. Ways to take care of yourself. Fight scenes aren't really, you know. I mean, you can have a fight scene that focuses on mental health. I think that's dope. I think that rules. You know? Some of my favorite fight scenes are the ones where people realize that it's a way for characters to communicate without words. It's like all body language. Because a fight scene, it's more, when it's done really well, it's more than just people hitting each other. It's like an exploration of character dynamics and how they've changed and how they shift through the scene. Naruto did a good job of that, I think. I didn't watch a whole lot of Naruto. I didn't get into it when I was a kid, so I tried to get into it when I was an adult, but it was really long. And so I kind of just, like, gave up a little bit on it. But from what little I've seen, it was really good at using fight scenes to communicate character motivations and character dynamics. And I think that, you know, a lot of shonen are really good at that. Like, and I need to catch up on My Hero Academia, but My Hero Academia does a really good job of that. And, like, magical girl shows. And a lot of the times in a magical girl show, there's the added layer of sometimes the people you're fighting are people you care about, people who've been your friends for a while. And I think that's fascinating. I really like a good, well-choreographed fight scene. I also like dance scenes when they're well done, when they're choreographed as though they're a fight scene. Like where it's another, you know, conversation between two people. That you can, sometimes there's like an actual conversation that happens while they're dancing, but the conversation is informed by the way that the characters are moving around each other. And I think that's fun. You know, and it can be tricky to choreograph, to storyboard a fight scene because, like, there's a lot of movement and you have to make sure that the audience knows what's going on at any given point in time when there's a lot of complicated movement happening, and that can be tricky. but it's really, like, if you can figure out how to do it well, it's really good. I was watching this show this anime called Keep Your Hands Off My Eizouken, which is about a trio of high school girls who run an animation studio in Japan. Or like an animation club, but they call it the film club because the anime club already exists, and, you know, school funding purposes, they can only really fund one of each kind of club. But the anime club is mostly watching anime, it's not making animation. So they're able to get away with it. And I would highly encourage you to watch that show if you haven't, because it is just absolutely gorgeous. There's these scenes where the girls are like coming up with ideas together and everything shifts into this like concept art style of animation that I adore. That's being changed and shifted as the girls are talking about their ideas for the animation. And one of the very first films they make is a fight scene between a girl and a tank in this sort of low-gravity apocalypse, post-apocalyptic world. And it's, I think, the best film that they make in the entire show. Granted, that could be because that first film was very concept arty, and like it had to be minimal because it was the first one they were making. They had to limit their ideas a lot in order to just prove that they can make something. And I think that aided in the quality of the overall piece. Because limits are good for you, right? Like they had to keep simple backgrounds. They knew that. They knew they had to keep the movements, like they had to reuse a lot of frames, but they were clever about it. They had to, you know, keep the set design very simple. It's all just like it all takes place in this one canyon. And it's pretty. And it's simple, and it communicates exactly what they were trying to communicate. And I am going to make sure that my piece is still communicating exactly what I want it to communicate by looking at my color vision app. Okay, so this is looking good so far in the color vision app. The leaves and the branches are still basically the same color in the red-blue color vision, but the leaves are this nice, like, yellowy blue gradient that contrasts well against the brown of the tree anyway. And, like, the tree limbs are darker than the leaves themselves, so you get that nice value. So I think I'm going to keep going with it. And it looks really nice in the Tritanope color vision. Like the limbs are red, the leaves are blue. It's gorgeous. So I'm going to keep going. Trying to get this like cloudy effect in here, make it feel more like leaves. And I should think of doing some other things with you guys, like, to get more of you in here. I'm thinking of, I have Invader Gems. I might do a thing of me working on Invader Gems so I can actually, you know, get to the next part of it. I have so many pages of Invader Gems sketched out that I just haven't inked. because inking's the hardest part. For me, at least. Different people have different skills and stuff. And I realized that when I wet the paper, like the parts of it that have color in it, and sponge it up a bit, that makes this nice cloudy leafy texture that I can take advantage of to make things pop more. I've realized something. Okay, the difference between this thing I'm working on now and this thing I used to work on is that this has a more defined tree line than this doesn't really. So I'm going to try and fix that. Get some glue in here. You know what? Pen time. Time to scumble on some of a tree line. There we go. Now we can define our spaces. And let's check our colors. Alright. So an interesting phenomenon that's happening here is that in the common and tritanope color visions, the trees don't really contrast against the sky all that much. But in the red-green versions of color vision, it pops a lot. And that, I think, is fascinating. Oh yeah, wow. Look at that. That's really interesting. Oh, highlight table. We don't need you today. Well, I mean, we do need you today, but like, to be a surface. Please and thank you. I think that's also interesting because I haven't seen like it pops more in the red-blue color blindness than it does in common color, and I don't think I've seen one of the limited color visions pop more than the common before. Ooh, got a little branch here. I suppose I personally think of green and blue as being very similar colors. Like, in Japanese, green and blue are actually the same color, aroi, and with forest green being its own color word of midori, or midori. And aroi kind of describes the entire color spectrum between, like, you know, from ice blue to deep blue to seafoam green to turquoise to like teal. And midori is basically just the color of the forest. Like just leaves. And I had to do a lot of sponging there because some of the green bled into the branches. But yeah, it's fascinating to think about. And like, how would our words for colors change if we had a different way of seeing them? Like, in the English language, there wasn't a word for blue for the longest time because blue was such a rare color to see. Like, it's the sky and that was it. Because like blueberries are more purple than blue, what we think of as blue. And like blue dyes were super rare, to the point where throughout most of human history, the only people who could afford blue clothing would be royalty. And even then, purple was another royal color because that was also an incredibly rare color dye. There's actually been this anime I've been watching recently called Ascendance of a Bookworm, which is like an isekai about a little girl who like a sick little girl who wakes up one day in this medieval fantasy world, only in her previous life she was like a Japanese woman in her mid-20s who lived in Tokyo. And the series is mostly about her, you know, trying to get books back because she really, really loves books. And books are super rare in a medieval town like the one that she woke up in. So she finds ways to... Her goal is to make books. But something I find interesting is that, like, because it's a bit of a fantasy world, not everything is the same between her world and ours. Like, one of her outfits has purple in it. And that might be because purple dye is more accessible to the general population in this world than it would have been at that time in ours. Because there's different plants and stuff that are easy to access. Which, you know, makes sense if you think about it. But it's also just super fascinating to think about. You know? And that world probably had a word for purple way before we did. Because it was so much more accessible. But yeah, we didn't really have words for blue in most languages until rather recently, actually. That's why when you read translated versions of the Odyssey, they describe it as the wine dark sea, is because they didn't have a word for blue. So they saw purple in it instead. And there's like fun little translation details like that. Like, did you know that in the original Italian of Dante's Inferno, the entire book rhymes? And like, there's no way to translate that. Like, you kind of have to, like, the people who translated Dante's Inferno prioritized the meaning over the rhythm. But it's just kind of super fascinating to think about. Like, what other sacrifices are there made in translation? Like, I know a little bit of sign language, only enough to hold a conversation, you know. But American Sign Language actually has its roots in French and not American English. There is a version of sign language that does have its roots in American English, BASL. Or Black American Sign Language, which was developed by African American communities before institutions such as Gallaudet University instituted a more common academic sign form. And I could probably learn BASL pretty easily if I wanted to. I mean, and I'm still, again, not an expert at ASL proper. I only know enough for a conversation. But maybe it'd be easier to learn BASL for me if I found the right resources. And I learned a little bit of Hawaiian when I was a really little kid because I loved Lilo and Stitch a lot. I connected with that movie a lot on a personal level, like Lilo is in a found family, and so was I. So am I. I didn't have a dad till I was 5, and I love him, and you know, I saw a lot of myself and my life in that film. And I sort of kind of, you know, gained a hyperfixation on Hawaiian culture, on native Hawaiian culture for a while when I was like 6. And a lot of Hawaiian language actually does rely on their own personal version of sign language. That's how they pass down stories, is via hula, which is, you know, a dance form of sign language. Like every, like, you know, actual traditional hula dance that you see is telling a story, because each of the dance moves correlates to a word or a phrase or an idea. And people will use these signs in everyday casual conversation interactions as well, not just while they're dancing hula. And I think that I've maybe lost quite a bit of the native Hawaiian that I knew when I was a kid, because I was 6 and I was learning via like guides on the internet and stuff, and not with an actual teacher. But I still liked it. And I could probably learn it again if I decided to put the time and effort into it. I can still, I still know how to pronounce the words, even if I don't really remember what each of them mean. Like, I remember, I think kahuna, which means, like, family, kind of. And in Hawaii, there isn't marriage, really, in the native, at least not historically for the native population. That's sort of, I mean, they have marriage now, but that's sort of like a Western thing that infected the culture. Instead, what they had was just, like, there were people who lived together and had kids together, but, like, the entire village, the entire tribe, the entire village the entire community would raise the kids together. And the entire culture surrounds that idea a little bit of, like, we are all family. That's why, like, cousin, everyone is your cousin. Everyone on the island is your cousin. Because we are all one great big family. We all belong together. It's a strong sense of community. And, like, kahuna is sort of meant to be a reminder of that. And it comes with its own sign too. I think it's like this. And you yeah. And this might all be wrong. I need to brush up on it. Like, don't quote me on any of this. Do your own research. I'm white. I am by no means an expert in any of the things that I'm talking about right now. I know this because I was obsessed with a Disney movie when I was 6 and gained a special interest in it. I recommend, if you want to learn more about Native Hawaiian culture and practices, talk to Native peoples, go to find tribe websites. Invest in that community because they need the support and they need the appreciation. Like, don't just be a tourist, be someone who actually cares about the preservation of that culture. Because the tourism, of Hawaii actually, tears that culture apart. And it's awful. Actually, you know what? Now I'm curious, and I'm going to look up what kahuna means. Define kahuna. Oh. Never mind, I was wrong. It's not a reminder that you're all connected to family. It's someone or something that is big and important and that you respect. like an expert in a field. I was wrong! And I'm willing to admit that, and I'm glad I looked it up. So it's a sign of respect, not a sign of connection. And you know, it's good to admit when you were wrong, and it's good to, because when you admit that you were wrong, that's how you can learn new things. You know? Ignorance is bliss. Don't believe that. Like, it's not that ignorance is bliss, it's that, you know, because you can learn. I think knowledge is good. Yeah, and that's why if you want to know more about that, go to people who actually know what they're talking about. And not just some random white girl artist on the internet. Color check. Oh yeah, that's looking good. Yeah. It's also fascinating to me that the leaves and the sky contrast against each other so much more nicely on the red-green color blindness spectrum than they do on the common or tritanope color spectrums. Like, that's just super interesting. I wonder what a blue-green gradient would look like on the red-green color blindness spectrum. Actually, I'm going to find that out. That might be useful here. I'm going to turn off night mode. Let's use this one. And let's see what that looks like. Wow! It's like a purpley split right down the middle. That's super interesting. Oh, time check. 12:24. Cool. Plenty of time. Yeah, those two splotches don't really work very well here. Let's surround it with some green. Actually, let's blend that. Forget that hole in the trees exists. This does not matter. It's not important. Just forget that is there, because it's not. Shh. Almost there. Oh, jeez. Okay, that looks better. Yeah. Water time. Water is good for you. And I think that, you know, it's important to learn about other cultures. You can't just be afraid to mess up and make mistakes. You gotta learn from your mistakes, because that's part of the human experience. You gotta be comfortable with the knowledge that you will mess up and forget things sometimes and get things wrong occasionally, because that's life, you know? And I think it's more important to try and understand each other and get it wrong sometimes than it is to never try at all. And to be okay with that. Because the important thing is you're trying and you're learning and you're admitting that you've made mistakes. And you're learning from them. Because I think making mistakes is the best way to learn from them, you know? For example, I just made the mistake of adding some bark lines where maybe they shouldn't have been. But out of that, I got a nice gradient up here, even though down here is a little bit more messed up now. Compromise, learning. All good stuff. Maybe I can put some glue in here now. Yeah, that's better. I think this is turning out good. Let's do our color check. Yeah. Here, let me move this up a bit so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Okay, you can't really see it well, but it's good. It's good. I think I might bring some more yellow into these leaves though. For flavor, you know. Yeah, it makes it pop better. Now I'm considering what to do down here, because in the original, I kind of just made it green, you know? And that's fine, but maybe something warmer? Yeah, like yellow? Let's check our colors on the, well, over here. Yeah, I think the yellowy green would work down here, like, because it pops in all of them. Let's bring some yellow ochre into it. Yeah. Color check. Yeah. It's nice. want to bring some red into this. Tone it down a bit. Yeah. The thing that happens when you redo things, like old things, is that some things get lost, inevitably. Wow, this water's so green that it's basically a color of its own. Subtle one, but still. I'm gonna free my wrist from this brace. People are talking with me on Discord. That was my family. They're doing good. Oops. I guess it would be yellower, closer to the audience. Probably lighter. This could use some red somewhere. Well, I guess TeeBee will be right here with red. In his shoes. I don't know, it's a lot of green and brown. And blue. It's very cool tones, all of it. Okay. Hmm. Ooh. Yeah. Hmm. Now I'm getting a little bit worried because, okay, so in the original book cover, this bottom half is very well defined. But in this one, it's not as defined at all. I'm wondering if maybe I should go in somehow and add some detail. And we also have to keep in mind that I'm spending a lot less time on this version than I did on the last one. Like the last one, I agonized over every single little detail. And in this one, I'm going a little more fast and loose, which is good in some ways. Wait a minute. Oh. Ooh. That's interesting. Oh yeah, the brush I'm using now is a Gray Matters #1 by Jack Richardson for water media. And I'm using it because it's a little more beat up than my other two brushes. And I just discovered this like magenta-y thing that I could do here. I'm gonna go for a slightly more rusty red. Yeah. Bring the warmth out in this tree, which will make the whole composition pop, hopefully. Let's double check our colors. Yeah. It adds a lot in the common and trite note, but it's basically the same in the Proton Apex and Deuteranope. But yeah, I think this is worth it. And let's change our color of light just to make sure. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that brings a warmth in there that I think the composition really needed. What did I say about pink trees earlier? Yeah, right now what we're doing is we're making good use of our complementary colors. Like the complementary colors on the color wheel: blue and orange, red and green, purple and yellow. So because we have so much green in this composition, it's like taking it over. I'm bringing in red in the tree to make it, force it to pop a lot more than it would have otherwise popped. I'm doing it mostly in the undertones and the midtones. I'm keeping the highlights the way they are for the most part. And we gotta be careful not to lose our undertones in our improvement of the color. And I also have to be careful because this might not all pick up in the scanner. Like that happened with my fair composition, is that the colors looked a little bit different between the real life photographs and the scan version. Because, you know, the scanner is converting it to RGB when I'm painting it in CMYK, essentially. RGB is red, green, blue. That's the colors that your average computer will use to colors happen on the screen. CMYK are printer colors. That's cyan, magenta, yellow, and then K stands for black because B was already used, because B is used for blue in the RGB. And we don't want to get too confused. When talking about color systems. Whoa! That pops. Maybe a little too much. Let's sponge some of it up. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see if we can get that pop that we got there accidentally into here on purpose. And here. And here. Oops. And I'm bringing a bit of green in here because, again, complementary colors. Actually, let's lean more yellow, like a lemon. Yeah. And sponge it up. Mm-hmm. 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 All right, color check. Whoa, that looks cool. It's fun. This looks basically the same in color in common vision and tritanope vision, but it still looks really good in protanopex and deuteranope vision. Well, not basically the same. The trees and hills are more yellowy in common vision than it is in tritanope vision. And the tree is a bit more red in tritanope, but I'm wondering if there's a way to bring in more blue so that it looks better in the there we go. Now we're going in the details mode. Adding some texture in here. Maybe not there. Oh, maybe. Let's see. Just kind of doing what my gut tells me to here. I'm gonna be honest. I don't quite know what I'm doing here. It's just kind of happening. Okay, color check. Well, that definitely looks a lot better in the red-green color spectrum. And in the common. It's kind of lost in Trichinope, which I'm a little bit worried about, because again, I think that's the one that my boss is in. But I think if I bring in more yellow, oh, and the trunk just kind of pops up so beautifully against the background in Trichinope anyway that it's like, does it matter? Let's bring that yellow in anyway, though. Or maybe defining the blue. Yellow. These to the edges. Well, that's gorgeous. What I'm doing is I'm constantly checking my color vision as I'm painting to make it look like it all pops. Okay, that's a little too yellow. And I think this will be good because like a lot more people are colorblind or have some sort of altered color vision than we would assume, I think. And taking it all into account just makes it all so much more vibrant. Now what I'm doing is I'm making the sky bluer. Hello, light table. Oh, that's maybe too much. Okay, time check. 1:27 p.m. I think this looks absolutely gorgeous. And I'm going to see what it looks like in other... Yeah. Yeah. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do something a little bit unorthodox. I'm going to see if my girlfriend can come in here and see if she can see anything that I can't see. Which is a good, if you have someone else who can take a look at your work, sometimes you've been staring at it too long. So it's good to get a second opinion. So I'm going to bring up my sign. And I'll be right back. So it looks like she's not home. So I think I might just call this good. And if it needs something later, I'll add something later. So thank you for coming, everyone. Well, I mean, nobody came, but thank you for watching people in the future. I hope to see you next time. Take care. Goodbye.